Hey, welcome. I hope you guys are doing good. Thank you so much for joining me here. Today's reading is the person on your mind. What have they realized about you, or more accurately, what do they think they've realized about you? All right. So we have three groups for you to choose from. We have group one, we have group two, and we have group three. Please feel free to pause the video if you need extra time to choose your group, but I will see you in your readings. Hey, welcome. If you've chosen the first group, then this reading could be for you. I hope you guys are doing okay. Thank you so much for joining me. So, the person on your mind, what have they realized about you? What do they think they've realized about you? And to start off with, we have the Justice card in reverse, the Queen of Pentacles upright, and the Page of Cups upright. Okay. So, what have they realized about you? So it feels like they've realized you're being treated unfairly, or you're in an unfair situation. For some of you, they could actually think you're being treated unfairly in a relationship. In some situations, they have realized that you can be unfair too. For some of you, they could think your apathy towards someone, maybe them, is unfair. For some of you, they could think you're unfair in other ways. And for some of you, they could think they've realized that you're unfair because they feel you sometimes avoid accountability, that you don't always take ownership of the part that you played in some situations or conflicts. It feels like they've realized that you are not a trustworthy, person for them in particular, and they kind of just, notice that you're not as fair as they, once thought you were. And it feels like they've realized that they've had the wrong impression of you initially. And it feels like in their perspective, they see that, or they feel that they've noticed you're not as nice as, they thought. And they also realize, like, within themselves, that they're holding a grudge towards you. Against you, should I say. But they realize as well, or they think they realize that you experience conflict quite often. And they feel like they've noticed that you sometimes play the victim when it benefits you, that you ultimately do things that, do benefit you in some situations, or a particular situation. They do notice that you are avoiding consequences. It feels like they've realized that you're very emotional. For some of you as well, it feels like they've noticed, or they feel like they've noticed that you could be having issues with a contract, or, dealing with some sort of legal, issues, complications, stuff like that. And they've realized that in some situation, you're in denial, and this could be related to your personal life. They realize that you sometimes lie to yourself when it comes to certain things within your personal life. But they've also realized that you are very loving and nurturing with the people that you are close to. But they do feel you put yourself first for the most part. For some of you, they do think you show love through actions. They notice that self-care is very important to you and that you value stability. And they've also realized that you make, some of the people around you feel very safe, like certain people feel very safe with you. And they've also realized that life is very, comfortable for you, like very cushy. And they also notice that you value appearance and tradition. They realize that they do perceive you as very mature for the most part. And they've also noticed that you sometimes give help without expecting anything in return. And they've noticed that there are a few people who do lean on you, maybe rely on you, or just lean on you a little bit. And they realize that you are very strong, especially in ways that aren't easily noticeable. And another thing they feel they've noticed about you is that you like romance, or you like to be romanced, and that you're a lot more sensitive than they initially realized. They realize that you can sometimes, come across as vulnerable, or they feel that you like to appear vulnerable sometimes. And for some of you here as well, it feels like they've noticed that at times you're vulnerable in ways that makes you like easy to hurt. Maybe not necessarily a target. Another thing they've realized about you is that you do have, big dreams, that you are creative and expressive. And they've also noticed that you need emotional connection more than you admit. They've realized that you are a playful person, that you are emotionally curious, that you do like to understand people and other things as well. And they've also realized from their perspective that you are very forgiving, and that you do tend to appear very innocent more often than not. Moving on, we have your skin looks like silk. We have financially stable. We have I'm used to flying solo. We have family issues. I want to feel your skin against mine. And we have be with me now. And we have forgiveness heals. We have dance. And we also have gift of freedom. So with your skin that looks like silk, they notice that you do take care of yourself. If you enjoy taking care of yourself, for some of you, they simply realize that you just have very beautiful skin in their perspective. And yeah, with forgiveness heals, they realize that you are quite forgiving, that you try not to hold on to anger and anything else that can maybe interfere or block your happiness. So they also realize with I'm used to flying solo that you're very much used to maybe doing certain things for yourself, or by yourself, that you are used to maybe being quite independent in certain areas of your life. With family issues, for some of you, they have noticed that you could be dealing with issues surrounding your family. they've also realized that they would still like to be like intimate with you, like they would still like maybe a physical connection with you, even though they've realized that maybe you guys do have, you know, other issues, or they're kind of like feeling a bit, I don't know if butthurt is the right word, but they are feeling some kind of way um, um, in regards to a certain area of your relationship. With financially stable, for some of you, they've realized that you are very financially stable, or you're just stable in general. But with the Queen of Pentacles there, for some of you, and the Six of Pentacles coming out to clarify, it could be that they've noticed that you are financially stable. With Dance, so for some of you, they've realized that either you enjoy dancing, or they've realized that you enjoy, you know, moving your body, whether that's through, you know, sport, yoga, you know, walking, or, you know, just being active in any way, or like keeping busy. But they've realized that you do like to move your body in whatever way, you know, that makes sense for you. And finally, with Gift of Freedom, it says break away from your attachments. So with this card, it feels like they've realized that you have broken away from an important attachment that you have or had. And for some of you, this could be an attachment that you had with another person. But that is all I have for those of you who chose this group. I do hope it could be helpful and make sense. Oh, and for, earlier I said with this card here, I want to feel your skin against mine. Earlier I said they realized that they, you know, still want to be intimate with you, which is still the case for those of you who are asking about those relationships. But for those of you who are asking about, you know, platonic connections, then they realize like they still want to be maybe in your presence, or like just physically close to you in some way. But that is all I have for those of you who chose this group. I do hope it could be helpful. I'm wishing you the best. Thank you for joining me. And hopefully I'll see you again soon. Please take care. Bye. Hey, welcome. If you've chosen the second group, then this reading could be for you. I hope you guys are doing good. Thank you for joining me. So the person on your mind, what have they realized about you? And to start, we have the Tower in reverse, the High Priestess upright, and the Seven of Pentacles also upright. So it feels like they've realized, in their perspective at least, that you've been devastated by life in some way, or you've just, you know, experienced really heavy things, and, you know, they feel that they've noticed that you may be a little bit broken in some way, and it doesn't really feel like it's coming from a negative place when they, you know, in their realization of that. They've also noticed that you do prefer to avoid confrontation, and that you prefer to avoid most things negative, or things that could have a negative impact, and that you just find it hard sometimes to you know, confront certain negative things, or things that could be perceived as negative. And it feels like they've noticed that you are going through a major change right now in your physical environment or in your personal life. And for some of you, this, you know, change that they feel you're going through is also being clarified by the 10 of Wands in reverse. So they do feel like you're going through this, you know, change when it comes to maybe releasing things that are quite negative, or quite, dark or daunting, But despite those things, like, they do realize that you're still very stable and you're still very balanced. Another thing they feel they've noticed about you is that you are lonely, and that you do tend to hide your pain and or emotions. And another thing they feel they've realized is that you sometimes resist transformation because they know or they sense that it feels unsafe for you. They feel or realize that you could be afraid of personal growth because you don't have a lot of time for yourself, or they could feel that maybe you're afraid to start things that you can't or won't be able to finish, because of maybe circumstances. So they could feel that you are, resisting change in that way. They also notice that you pretend things are fine, even when they're not. They realize that you do avoid emotional risk, that you are emotionally guarded, maybe with them specifically for a lot of you. They realize that you at times like endure discomfort, and things that just don't feel right for you, or, maybe you're kind of stuck in situations where you feel, change is very difficult. So they do feel like you kind of endure this discomfort. Another thing they've noticed about you is that you do tend to be more reserved, that you are very mysterious, and that you're just not a very transparent person. They find this both, intriguing and frustrating, because it feels like they, want to know you, they want to invest in you, but maybe they feel like they're being, blocked from doing that, or they just kind of feel it makes it difficult. But they still find this very like attractive about you at the same time. Another thing they've noticed about you is that you feel and know a lot more than you say and let on. They realize that you are extremely intuitive, extremely spiritual, but in their perspective, they feel that they've noticed that you try to like not appear that way, that you try to not appear super intuitive and maybe intelligent, maybe and spiritual. And they realize that you are just an emotionally complex person, and just like a complex person in general, not only related to emotions. And another thing they notice is that you are protective of your inner world. They realize that your silence often speaks louder than words. And they've also noticed that you do have a lot of trust in yourself, that you are an emotionally and spiritually rich person. Like, I think I've said this already, but they do see you as very spiritual. And they realize that they feel attracted to you not only like physically, but they feel attracted to you spiritually. Like, they feel drawn to your energy, especially spiritually. It's hard to like describe, but yeah. But yeah, they also realize that you are very sexy, you are wise, and they also realize that they see through you. And I don't say this in a negative way, it's just that they think you try to hide things, try to hide yourself, but they feel like they see you, like I see you, in the way where you might, notice that your loved one is like going through something heavy, and like maybe they're trying to hide it, but you see them. But yeah. So yeah, another thing they realize is that they do want to invest in you, but they do wonder if you even want emotional connection. They kind of realize that you are just very self-sufficient, and that you hold and carry a lot of secrets. Another thing they've noticed is that it's hard for them to see you often. Like, it's hard for you guys to maybe run into each other often. And another thing they realize about you is that you are willing to wait for what you feel you deserve. They realize that you are very deliberate in what you do, that you tend to reflect before you react, that you are very self-aware. They could feel you're deliberate in other ways too. Um, they realize that you're not someone that's going to rush love and just rush other relationships as well, whether friendships or whatever it may be. And they realize that you're someone that needs to evaluate what's worth your time before you kind of proceed. So yeah, they realize that you're just a patient person in general, but you expect results also. It's just that you're careful. Another thing that they feel they've noticed about you is that you don't rely on other people, or you dislike relying on other people. So they notice that they do want to look after you, but they've also realized that they haven't really planted any seeds with you, and they realize that they need to, do that because they do, like you, want to look after you, and they see you as loyal, but also not blindly loyal, and that you're just someone they want to connect with. Um, and finally, another thing they've realized is that you may not care much for instant gratification, and that you're patient in that way too. Okay, so moving on, we have, do you even care about me? We have trauma. We have, I'm not sure. Surface level. You've got me all wrong. And I want to taste every inch of you. We also have socialize or join in. We have celebrity, shine like the star you are. And we have willpower. So with do you even care about me, it feels like they've realized that you aren't really cared for and nurtured by someone, or they've realized that I totally forgot what that message was. It kind of just dropped out of my head. But yeah, so with socialize or join in, make healthy and supportive new friendships and connections by getting involved with a group of like-minded people. So they've realized from their perspective that you may not have healthy and supportive friendships and connections, relationships. And they've also realized that you may come across at times like you don't really want to socialize, or you're not very social, but they've realized from their perspective that you actually do like to socialize, whether it's selectively or limited. But yeah, they have realized that. So with You've Got Me All Wrong, they've also realized that their initial impression of you is completely, or was completely wrong, and that they feel they see you a lot clearer now from their perspective. And they realize that they did get you wrong initially. So with I'm Not Sure, even though they realize from their perspective that you are self-sufficient, that you are self-aware, but they realize at times that you're not sure of yourself. Yeah, that you're not sure of yourself at times. And they've also realized with surface level that the connection that you have with them is surface level. But they realize that they, kind of want to break, past that level and know you in a deeper, more intimate way. Like they do want to scratch the surface, or more than scratch the surface, actually. So with willpower, I'm getting the most random message. It doesn't seem connected. It may not seem connected at all, but it feels like they've realized that you try to keep certain things in your life simple to avoid, stress or more stress, and discomfort. And with celebrity shine like the star you are, they've realized that to them, you really do stand out, that you do shine. And with celebrity, I'm also getting that they realize that you are quite resilient as well. With I want to taste every interview, what have they realized about you? So it feels like that is what they've realized, that, that's something that they want to do to you. And with trauma, they've realized that you have experienced, unfortunately, a lot of trauma and heavy life circumstances, But that is all I have. For those of you who chose this group, I really do hope it could be helpful. I'm wishing you the best, and hopefully I'll see you again soon. Please take care of yourself, okay? Bye. Hey, welcome. If you've chosen a third group, and this reading could be for you, I hope you guys are doing okay. Thank you for joining me. So the person on your mind, what have they realized about you? What do they think they realize about you? And we have the Nine of Pentacles in reverse, Eight of Cups in reverse, Four of Wands in reverse. So for some of you, it feels like they've realized that you may not care too much about achievement or accolades, stuff like that. They've also realized from their perspective that you might struggle to feel whole and maybe okay and confident on your own, and that you do rely a lot on other people, whether that's family, friends, or your partner. And they kind of notice from their perspective that you might fear having too much independence, or you just, don't like having too much independence. They could feel that you're afraid to be on your own or feel alone, and that you're just afraid to stand on your own in some way, and that you do need support or connection in that way. Another thing they realize about you is that you love, and that you're just a lover girl or a lover guy, and that you just have that kind of energy. But another thing they've noticed is that you need a lot of validation, you need a lot of attention and care. They realized from their perspective that you being alone might be necessary or something that you need. And they've also noticed that you may not be as confident as you appear on the surface or just to them. And another thing they've noticed about you from their perspective is that other people have to sacrifice their needs for you, to keep you happy. And another thing they feel that they've noticed is that you may not be the most grateful person as well, and that you are someone that needs, material comfort. And they've noticed that you may not be focused on your own personal growth right now. They could realize that you're just kind of content, or that you're just really not ambitious in that way, which is fine. They could also realize that you might struggle a bit with boundaries. I'm not sure in what way. For some of you, this could be maybe having trouble enforcing your boundaries or respecting other people's boundaries. It could be something else that makes more sense to you. But they've noticed that you may not like being on the outside looking in, that you do prefer to be, included, involved. And they've realized as well that you're a lot more fragile than you let on. They've noticed that you're currently holding on to something that isn't for you, and they feel you're holding on to something that you are better off without. Not sure what this could be though, to be honest. It could be very different for each of you. But yeah, they've noticed that you may be afraid to walk away from people or situations that don't serve you. They could also feel that you're avoiding issues in your personal life, afraid to, see it for what it is, or confront it, or do something about it. And they've noticed that you could be unhappy underneath the surface, and that you often put on a front. But they do also notice that you are just a very friendly person in general. But they do, feel they've noticed that you, could be emotionally stagnant right now. Like you're waiting for something to shift like emotionally or within your life. Like you're kind of waiting for it instead of maybe being active in regards to like creating a shift. But they do realize that you are very loyal. And another thing they've noticed is that you could be having second thoughts about them. They realize that you have a fear of abandonment, and that you're waiting on someone to make changes for the both of you. They notice that you're someone that does really desire connection, and maybe because you do really desire connection, they notice that sometimes you settle for, connections that are disappointing and, not really for you. Um, but yeah, they realize that you really don't like feeling left out. And they've also noticed from their perspective that you could be chasing something that keeps slipping away from you. And they realize that you may have high expectations, of the people around you, maybe that you expect a lot from others. And another thing they feel they've noticed is that other people's efforts sometimes, goes unnoticed with you. And for some of you, they've also realized that you could be experiencing some tension at home as well. But yeah, moving on, we have my mind is elsewhere. I will do everything in my power to protect you. We have music. I plan to make your whole body smile. There are so many things left unsaid. And I'm not with all the drums. We also have answered prayers. Ocean, go with the flow. And we also have ending a trauma. So with my mind is elsewhere, for some of you, they've realized that they don't really think about you all that often anymore. But for some of you, they've realized that they try to not think about you, and that they do, try to like distance, you in their mind. So with Ocean, go with the flow, they've realized that you are someone that does really just kind of go with the flow in most aspects of, their life, in their perspective at least. And they've also realized that there are a lot of things that they kind of didn't tell you, didn't say, maybe when they had the chance. Maybe they feel like the time's gone and the moments passed, so they feel like they kind of have to keep it to themselves. So for some of you, they could realize that you really like your music. That you feel really connected to music. So with I plan to make your whole body smile, for some of you, they noticed that you both didn't get to reach the pinnacle of your intimate relationship, and like physically that you guys didn't, live up to what they thought, like, how do I put this? Like they feel that a lot more could have come out of your intimate moments, and that you guys didn't really live up to your combined potential, basically, And with answered prayers, they've realized that maybe a lot of your prayers, your wishes have already been answered, and that you already have a lot of what you, already wanted. They've also realized that you don't really like drama. So with ending a trauma, for some of you, if the person you're asking about, if you guys did have like quite a toxic or currently do have quite a toxic, unhealthy relationship, clarified even by the Seven of Swords, maybe there are a lot of mind games, manipulation, conflict, but they realize that, whatever trauma there was or toxicity there was between the two of you has, ended. On your part especially, And for a lot of you, they've realized that you're actually protecting yourself from them. With I will do everything in my power to protect you. They realize that you're actually protecting yourself. Have I missed anything? No. But that is all I have for those of you who chose this group. I really do hope it can be helpful and make sense. Wishing you the best. Hopefully I'll see you again soon. Please take care. Bye.